Okay, in this video we're going to discuss the still ongoing reloading component crisis, how powder, primer, and other things for us to reload are still in A, short supply and hard to find, and B, the price constantly is going up. Okay, prices have doubled for just about, well, in terms of powder. And also for primers, they've tripled. Okay, it used to be $25 for 1,000 primers, and now we know that, if you can find them, they're well over $100. So that's like 4 times more than what they were. So we're going to get into it, and I'm going to give you some of my opinions and a kind of current idea of what's going on here. They did have, CCI primers, which were off the shelf for a long time, have popped up again. And powders did come out. Some of the big box stores had powders come out. They had they'd have a couple, like 3 different types, and that's all they'd get. And that was because the supply chain, what a store would do is put everything on back order, and the wholesaler said he's got all his customers on back order, so if he got a case or a pallet load of some powder, he would go and put a little bit on all the pallets outgoing and whatever he could, and as it came in, he would just divide it up, and henceforth that's why there was always a shortage of these things where you can only buy 1 pound of powder and all this other stuff. Well, that's kind of gone away, but the price has gone up and it's still sporadic. Certain powders I liked, IMR powders. I really like them, especially in all the mil surplus calibers. It's difficult to find them. Okay, and when you do find it, it'll be one type of powder or one class of it, and there'll be a bunch of it like they produced, and then it'll sell out, and then you won't find it for 6 to 8 months. And I mean, it's sold out everywhere, unless you hit one of them scam websites that tell you they want Zelle or some kind of other payment, and they got all the powder you want, and there's still some of them floating around. You got to be careful. So only do business with a place that you trust, and make sure that they're taking a credit card. If they won't take a credit card and ask you all that, it's a fake site. No matter how good it looks, just stay away from it. Okay, that's a warning there. So what I did here, I'm not going to show you the screen. I went and looked up a few things, and we'll stay on the powder and we'll get to the primers. But powder, got this here, this old one sitting around. It has $29.99. That was kind of like at the start of this. Okay, is usually about, I remember it about in the low 20s to $25, $28. Of course, that was 6 years ago, was average powder. And some powders do cost more than others by a few dollars, like $4 or $5 a pound. Okay. Well, when I found something that I use, and I use a lot, I found buying the 8-pound caddies was cool, and 8-pound jugs were about, depending on what you bought, $120 to $150. Back when I used to shoot trap, I think that's what an 8-pound keg of the powder I used to make shotgun shells. But I was shooting at the time, like, I think that year I shot 3,000 recorded rounds in trap or something. So I was going through a lot of shotgun shells. And that became where it's impossible. Just the cost of the lead shot itself. It went up from like $19 a bag to $60 a bag, and that gets you, I think, 1 ounce 12 gauge loads. That gets you enough to get through one event of 300 rounds or something close to that, or 250 rounds. So it just became super expensive, okay, and there's no way around it. And I think on average the cheapest 12 gauge shotgun shells you find are about $10 a box now. So reloading it is kind of pointless. And as it gradually went up, this $46.99 for this, I bought this, and then now they're all 50 or something. And so if we go to AmmoSeek, and I was just looking for IMR powder. And it ranges anywhere, some of these are $29.99, and it's for a powder I'm not familiar with, the black powder substitutes. Then when you get into like $42.27 or $43.50, then it's $39.95. So now you're looking at $40. But remember, if I'm going through a mail order company, I have to pay shipping, tax, and the $20 hazmat fee. Okay, just to buy a pound of powder. So when you add $30 to it now, you're ending up paying $60 to $70 for 1 pound of gunpowder to have it mailed to you. Now, if you go to a local store and on the shelf, it'll, like I said, $46. And they know that. They know that if you find it online, you got to pay the hazmat, so they add that onto this. Okay, so you're not going to get away from it. You're kind of screwed. And powder, like I said, is hit and miss. And I can go down and find, all right, $39.99, $42.99 at another place for the same powder, and it goes up to $46.99, to where some of them, $43.50, $51.46, and that's, also adding on another $30. So as you see, you can find powder, but you're going to get burned. Now primers, that's another weird thing to talk about. Primers, supposedly these guys are going to go out, build this factory in Texas and start making primers here in the U.S. and get the supply out. And there was somebody on YouTube covering this and was talking about it all the time. And then mysteriously, when this guy was going to get this thing started and get this project going and build this factory, all of a sudden he gets bought out or something. All of a sudden it's squashed. And I do not see any type of other U.S. made primers. Okay, so all this talk and that, for some reason it appears to me, that to me sounds like somebody put the dude out of business, because if you got something that's in short commodity and you're making a fortune selling it for 4 to 5 times more, if you get somebody coming out to compete with you and starting to mass produce stuff, that's going to cut into your profit margins and costs. Okay? So we all know the primer shortage, and primers are weird. It's like, I'm going to go with large rifle. Small pistol was non-existent for a very, very long time. And small pistol come out generally with all these foreign manufacturers. And I did videos on testing these foreign primers. And basically, in a nutshell, they're okay if you use them in an older revolver or any of the Milser pistols from Russia, or any military grade handgun, okay, from Eastern Europe or something, will handle those things well, and there will be no problems. Where the problems come in is the vast majority of modern firearms are striker-fired 9mm, and there's a whole array of them, and you will find, and there's no one particular model, it's just some guns do not like these primers, and there are guns, be it either inexpensive ones or SIGs or real expensive ones, that people have tested them, and certain handguns will handle these primers without a problem. It's just if you happen to have a gun that doesn't like these primers and you buy a lot of them, now you got ammunition that's going to light strike or not go off. Okay, so yes, there are issues with them. But large rifle primers were around. So now that you're seeing some small pistol primers and this and that, now all of a sudden large rifle primers, when I was looking into getting some, were gone. I mean, sold out everywhere. And when I call it up today here on AmmoSeek to get an idea, the foreign ones, Ginix and that, are 10 cents a piece. Fioshis are 11.3 cents. And the first CCI I find is 13.4 cents for just a regular number 34 NATO. Oh, that's the white box NATO primers. Okay. Remington 100s, which are standard primer, not bad. They're 13.5 cents a piece. CCI, of course, large Magnum. Let me see if I can just find just a plain Winchester. Large rifles are 15 cents a piece. And CCR large rifle here, I guess regular the civilian ones, the 500s, which I use in most of my loads, are 16 cents a piece as of today. Okay. Now when we go to small pistol, again, all these foreign primers, when I was buying them, they were $60, $70, so 6-7 cents a piece. The ones from Argentina have dropped to a nickel, and there's a lot of them out there. ZSRs are 5.7 cents. Aguilas are 5.9 to 6 cents. Gimmicks are 6.2 cents. And when we get to Winchester small pistols, 6.6. 6.6 for Winchester. Federal small pistol primers, 7 cents each. So small pistol, I guess they've been concentrating on it. Isn't that bad? So small pistol primers, of course, you use more of them than a large rifle too. So are we going to see these prices come down? Well, like when I made that thing on deflation on new handguns, they've just kept manufacturing handguns because of the past shortages for the past few years. These factories are still producing these guns, and of course they keep upgrading and changing with sights and this and that and features, and you got a lot of guns that have been phased out, and now the market's flooded with them, and they're selling them at discounted rates. Okay, and this is kind of deflating the value of modern handguns. The reason you don't see the same thing, and you see it a little bit with ammo. Okay, ammo, they kind of control that. But with reloading components, no. Okay, they have caught up with some manufacturing. You see it sporadically come out, like CCI primers were available for the first time in like 2 years. I've seen them in stock. And of course, like I said, they're not the usual three. They're 2-3 cents a piece, you know, but say 3-4 cents a piece. Now everything is 10, 6, whatever. And there are still people selling them to you for $140 a thousand. Okay, you'll stumble upon that either at a gun show or even online. There are some people that have them that'll sell them to you for that price. So that's a problem there. And the thing is, a lot of people put out, like, they put out this, dealers or any of these major stores will get a letter from the wholesalers saying that there's a price increase. This is normal. This happens every year. And people put it out, oh, they're going to raise the prices. Well, yeah, that's called inflation. That's normal. Every year they're going to bump it up a little. So they have the videos on that, but that's all BS. And I think what people don't understand is when it comes to manufacturing, since the 1990s, I was in manufacturing all my life, there is a business standard, okay, that all of these companies went to. So it doesn't matter if you're making gunpowder, toilet paper, tobacco products, whatever, okay. The whole concept was zero inventory. So you have an idea how much you're going to sell. Okay? So you only manufacture and set your factory up to manufacture something that will sell, like say, in 6 months. So when the product's finished, you package it, Within a very short period of time, it's gone, and all of it's gone. There is no surplus, there is no extra. Okay, that's called zero inventory, because companies believe if inventory sits in their warehouse at their plant, it's money lost. Because you spent money to produce this, okay? Let's say it costs you $10 to produce this, and then you're going to sell it for $20. Okay, double up your money. Well, all of this that sits in a warehouse that you have not sold is money that you have spent that you're not getting a return on. Okay, so if you borrowed the money, we all know how that works, or whatever, you put money out, you've had an expense. Now this sits there for a year, so however much you made, and I said it's with any product, okay, that's money lost, okay? That's the way the company looks at it. It's just, we make exactly what the demand is and get rid of it, okay? And what has happened with these panic buys and that, the demand outstrips what these people plan to make or have the capability to make. When it got real bad, it's beyond their capability. Then there are other demands and things that come first. Okay, and it's not a conspiracy, it is just the way business is done. You know, when people were saying that law enforcement is buying 30 million rounds of 9mm ammo or something, well, you're looking at the federal government, like the FBI or whatever, you know, or when they're sending it, when we set up Iraq's police force after the end of the conflict. They bought so many pistols and 40mm, and they bought so many billion rounds, and that was something, that was a contract for the government, and went there to stabilize that country. Okay, those take precedence to these manufacturers because these are huge contracts. Okay, they're going to get that out of the way. Does this wartime stuff affect the ammunition thing? And I think they exaggerate it a bit. Probably, if they are producing propellants, like say a powder company, okay, is producing a propellant used in ammunition that's in a demand because of a war, yes, they will put their precedence in producing more of that product, okay, other than worrying about getting down to these little civilian cans of powder. So yeah, that's where there is shortages because of that. Should it be as bad as it is? Because these wars, the war in Ukraine, you know, I think the Russians and them guys got so much of their own weapons and stuff piled up there. I don't see how that would be a drain, you know, because most of those weapons are also calibered in rounds that are not made here in the U.S. Okay? So some of this there is kind of fictitious, and I believe there's some underhanded stuff going and stuff being sold on a black market. You know, that's for another discussion. I don't believe it's that much of a drain. And again, Israel. Okay, how many of you guys collect surplus guns and see all of these handguns coming out of Israel? And I mean, it's been constant. Okay, all these old pistols and that, and they produce their own stuff. IMI, Israeli Military Industries, I remember we bought their damn gunpowder, we bought projectiles, brass from them for a lot of military calibers. For years, I used to load with Israeli military industry products. Okay? So, you know, what do they go out of business? You know, they have their own manufacturing right there to make all the damn ammo and stuff they need. And, you know, the place has been in a constant state of war for 60 years, so they should have reserves of ammo and stockpiles of it, you know, to provide for their needs. I don't believe it's just like, oh, war. Now everything's gone. They're going to take our ammo. Somebody was saying they were coming and taking civilian packaged 9mm ammo and everything, and civilian grade ammo is not made to military standards. Military grade ammunition is a totally different thing than what you go to the retail store and buy. You can buy some that say, are made to that, put in a, I know Winchester white box or something, overruns of military grade stuff do show up on the civilian market. Okay, so I don't need anybody sending me all kinds of comments, but in general, a vast majority of the 9mm handguns are not made to the military standards. Okay, and I don't believe the war is that bad to where we would be taking from civilian stockpiles of that grade of ammo and trying to make up for a lack of military grade ammo. Okay, so again, I call it BS. I don't believe it really affects the market as much as these people lead on. But I do believe it probably puts a strain on those making the gunpowder. Okay, they may be up high. That's why they're not making as much for the civilian market or for reloading. That may be the case there. And also, when we think about it, and brass. Now, I did a project, I was able to do it, and I was thinking of doing some others in the mill surplus thing, and I went around and looked, and there are a shortage of certain components. Certain brass is hard to find, okay, especially from a company like PPU makes a ton of old military cartridge brass, the brass cases. You can custom reload like 8mm Lebel, 7.5 French, Argentine, it's hard to find their brass. They're sold out. So this might mean they've sold out, and I think it's March when they send a shipment over for the start the new year or fill orders or something like that, which makes sense. But I found certain calibers are hard to find. And Starline brass, that's another thing. It used to be Starline brass made a lot of the old Western calibers, like 50-70 you can get from Starline brass, which somebody's asking me about that. And when you go to Starline, if you see out of stock, no back orders accepted, that means there's different colors by them. Some are back ordered and they intend to make it on their future production schedule, and you have to get on a list or something, or pre-order. I've done that where you pre-ordered, pay them, and then you wait 4 or 5 months. Then they email you back and tell you, hey, we got your stuff ready. So a lot of them are out in the rifle category, and some of them, when they do that one where there's no back order, you can't get on a list, that means they don't intend to make it, and it could be 3 to 4 years before they start making this brass again. Okay, and like I said, there's a lot of odd calibers that Starline makes, like the French pistol cartridge. I forget, the 7.6. I bought a bunch of that when it first came out, and I didn't do any reloading, but I had some extra I got from another source, and I pretty readily sold all of that off at one point in time about 1.5 years ago, because I believe they're not making that these odd calibers for a while, indefinitely. It could be years before you see them made again, and this is a problem, because a lot of them old cartridges I used to form other cases out of. And then when you have them and you can't get the components and you've tied up hundreds and hundreds of dollars in this brass, that's where you get caught up. It's tough to do that. But that's the situation now. If it's going to get better, I don't think so. I believe this year is going to be really terrible in a lot of ways with A, the economy, B, money's tight, and companies, the economy's crashing. And a lot of companies are backing off. They're not going to overproduce. They're going to be very cautious in what they do. And they're going to raise their prices. Okay? So for now, guys, that's my take on it. I'm sorry it's kind of long and drawn out, but I like to explain it in detail. And I guess we'll just have to hang tight and see what happens. But one thing I'm sure of, you're not going to see prices come down. Okay, now they did have a special where if you bought 5,000 primers, they'd remove the hazmat fee or something. So it kind of makes me think, now you're thinking of it, it's a bullshit thing too, because if they're to where they got one type of primer that they got to get rid of, if they want to by the end of the year, they're going to have a little special on it and try to get you to buy 5,000 of them. It kind of means they really don't have a shortage. Okay, that's food for thought. All right then, hit the like button and stay tuned.